Welcome to Honeybee, real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name is Brian, and for the longest time, I believed without a doubt that the woman I was about to marry was the one person I could trust completely. If someone had asked me back then, I would have staked everything I owned on her faithfulness. Right up until just 2 months before our wedding day, I truly thought I had found my forever partner. But when the truth about what she had been doing behind my back came to light, I had no choice but to make a decision she never saw coming. And that choice meant walking away. I still remember the first time I ever saw Joyce. It was during one of my morning jogs. Earphones in, just run it clear my head like I usually did. The trail wasn't packed with people, but when you stick to the same routine long enough, you start noticing familiar faces. She became one of those familiar faces. At first, it was nothing more than a polite nod or a small wave whenever we crossed paths, a silent recognition shared between strangers who happened to take the same route. But then one morning, she broke that pattern. I had slowed down near a water fountain when I suddenly heard her call out to me. She was pointing at my sneakers with a curious smile and asked, "Hey, are those good for long-distance running?" The question caught me off guard, but I smiled back and told her what I liked about them. That small exchange quickly turned into an actual conversation, and before we knew it, nearly 15 minutes had gone by. She told me she lived just a few blocks from where I stayed, and we laughed about probably running into each other at the same grocery store without ever realizing it. By the time we parted ways, it felt strange not to stay in touch, so we swapped numbers. That was the start. The small thread that would eventually pull us into something far bigger than either of us could have imagined. For the first couple of months after Joyce and I traded numbers, things stayed light and casual. Our chats were nothing more than short check-ins or random conversations. I wasn't in a relationship at the time, but I also wasn't actively searching for one. My life was steady, and I liked keeping it that way. From the beginning, it was obvious Joyce was already with someone. She never outright said, "I have a boyfriend," but she didn't need to. Whenever she talked about her weekend plans, she'd use "we," and her social media made it clear she wasn't single. If you paid attention, the signs were all there, and I noticed. Because of that, I drew clear boundaries. I respected that she was taken, and I respected myself enough not to cross any lines. I wasn't about to set myself up for heartbreak by catching feelings for someone unavailable. So I kept things on the surface, friendly, but nothing deeper. And for a long while, that's exactly what it was. Then, after some time, her social media activities suddenly stopped. At first, I didn't think twice about it. People take breaks from posting all the time. But weeks later, when she returned, something felt different. All the photos of her with her boyfriend were gone. In their place were the kind of quotes you usually see when someone is going through a breakup. Choose yourself. Healing isn't linear. Let go of what no longer serves you. I'd seen enough of those posts before to know what they usually meant. I figured things had ended between her and her boyfriend, but I didn't ask. Sure, we were friendly, but we weren't close enough for me to dig into her personal life. So I just stayed quiet and observed. Then one evening, she posted something heavier than usual. I can't recall the exact words now, but the tone stuck with me. It sounded like someone barely holding it together. That one made me stop and think about her the rest of the night. Something pushed me to reach out. Maybe it was concern, maybe instinct, but I sent her a simple message. "Hey, are you doing okay?" She replied not long after, saying she was fine. I didn't push, but I casually asked why she had gone silent online for so long. That's when she responded with, "Let's talk when we see each other." That caught me off guard. Up until then, we'd only ever interacted during morning runs. We'd never hung out outside that context. So I asked what she had in mind. She suggested a small cafe, not far from where we both lived. I agreed. We met up one evening after work. The cafe was warm and quiet, the kind of place where people could actually talk. After the usual small talk, Joyce opened up. She explained that her silence online was her way of processing things. Her boyfriend had broken things off, and she'd been struggling to put herself back together. The way she spoke, I could tell it still hurt. Her voice was steady, but her eyes gave her away. There was pain there, lingering just beneath the surface. I'll admit, I wanted to know why he left, what had gone wrong, but I held back. Asking questions wouldn't help. What she needed in that moment wasn't interrogation. She just needed someone to listen. So that's what I did. I let her speak, let her unload the thoughts and emotions she had clearly been carrying for too long. That night felt different. For the first time, I saw her not just as a familiar face or a casual friend, but as a person navigating something heavy and choosing to trust me enough to share it. That conversation became the foundation for everything that unfolded between us afterward. After that evening in the cafe, something between Joyce and me shifted. Slowly at first, but enough to notice. We started spending more time together outside of the jogging route. At the beginning, it was lighthearted, grabbing coffee here, taking a walk there. But as the weeks went by, those casual meetups became more frequent. Sometimes she'd invite me over to her place in the evenings. She'd try out a new recipe and ask me to be her test subject, or we'd just sit around talking. Other times, she'd come over to my apartment. We'd cook dinner, put on a movie, or just enjoy each other's company. It felt easy, natural. Now, I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice how attractive Joyce was. She was beautiful, no question about it. But I was cautious. I knew she had just come out of a breakup, and I didn't want to be the guy she leaned on just to fill an empty space. I'd seen that story before. You pour your energy, your time, your emotions into someone, only to realize later you were just a temporary distraction while they healed. I didn't want that for myself. So, even though I was drawn to her and felt our connection growing stronger, I tried to keep my guard up. At least, I thought I was. But the more time we spent together, the harder it was to deny what was happening. Our short chats turned into late-night phone calls that stretched for hours. We shared stories from our childhoods, embarrassing moments, future dreams, little pieces of ourselves we hadn't told many people. There were no big confessions, no dramatic turning points, just a slow, steady closeness that kept unfolding. We started finding reasons to see each other. And one night, while waiting for takeout in my apartment, we were sitting on the couch, laughing about something silly, when Joyce looked at me and suddenly asked, "Why don't you have a girlfriend?" I laughed a little and said, "I do." She gave me a puzzled look. "You do? How come I've never met her?" I leaned back and smirked. "You see her every day. I talk about her all the time. My girlfriend is you." I had meant it as a joke, just a playful line to make her laugh, but she paused for a moment like she was actually considering it. Then she smiled and replied, "So I'm your girlfriend and I didn't even know it?" We both laughed, but underneath that light-hearted moment, something changed. From then on, Joyce became more affectionate. Lingering hugs, small touches, the way she looked at me a little differently. It was like she had embraced the idea, without either of us needing to say much more. And honestly, I didn't stop it. I let it happen because it felt right. It felt mutual. After weeks of this growing closeness, I finally stopped pretending we were just friends. I asked Joyce directly to be my girlfriend. From that point on, it felt like we just clicked. Our conversations flowed effortlessly. Our silences were comfortable, not awkward. And on the rare occasions when we disagreed, we didn't fight to win. We listened. That was new for me. I knew her past, and I knew what her ex had put her through. So I made a promise to myself quietly. I would never make her question her worth or wonder about her place in my life. I wanted to love her in a way that made her feel safe, valued, and secure. About a year into our relationship, the question of living together came up naturally. Joyce was already spending most of her time at my place, and our routines blended seamlessly. It just made sense to make it official. We found a bigger house in a quieter neighborhood. I covered the rent, and she handled some of the bills. That arrangement felt fair to both of us, and honestly, it worked. Living together only deepened our bond. By then, I wasn't just in love. I was building a future with her in mind. If someone had told me at that time that it would all come crashing down, I would have laughed. After everything came out, the hardest part wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was realizing just how close I came to marrying someone who was living a double life. If that phone call hadn't come in at the wrong time, if I hadn't looked at her messages that night, I would have walked down the aisle with a woman who was still emotionally tied to another man. That truth cut deeper than anything else. For days, I kept going through the motions. I showed up at work, forced small talk, pretended I was fine, but inside I was crumbling. The silence at home was the worst. Sleeping under the same roof with Joyce, knowing what I knew, I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Every smile, every "I love you," every plan we had made together, it all felt poisoned. Eventually, I realized I couldn't carry it anymore. So one morning, before heading to work, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote her a letter. I laid everything out, how I knew about the other man, how I had seen the messages, how she had lied straight to my face while planning our wedding. I told her the wedding was off, that I couldn't marry someone who had betrayed me so deliberately. But I also gave her an option: leave quietly, pack up her things, and be gone before I came home. I made it clear that if she didn't, I'd tell everyone, the families, the friends, anyone who needed to know the truth. I left the letter on the counter, beside her favorite mug, then walked out the door. Not long after, my phone started buzzing nonstop. It was Joyce. She had read the letter and was desperate to explain, saying I had misunderstood, that it wasn't what it looked like. But I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. She wasn't sorry because she regretted her choices. She was sorry because she got caught. That night, I didn't go home. I booked a hotel and turned my phone on silent. I knew if I walked back into that house, she'd be waiting, tears in her eyes, ready with rehearsed excuses. I didn't want to hear them. The next day, when I finally returned, I saw her still there. Her things weren't packed. She told me I owed her a chance to explain. But the truth is, I didn't owe her anything anymore. Not after what she had done. I told her she needed to leave. Not later, not tomorrow, now. This time, she didn't fight it. She packed up and went back to her parents' house. Just like that, it was over. Afterward, people started reaching out. Mutual friends, members of her family, even acquaintances who barely knew me suddenly wanted to play mediator. Some urged me to forgive her. Others said maybe it didn't mean anything, that she had just made a mistake. But here's the truth. It wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are accidents. What Joyce did was deliberate. She carried it out carefully enough that I was never supposed to find out. That realization hit me harder than anything. Our entire relationship, the life I thought we were building, was tainted by a secret I didn't even know existed. And once someone shows you who they truly are, it's not your job to paint a prettier picture. It's your job to protect yourself. Walking away wasn't easy. I'd be lying if I said I'm completely over it. I loved her. I was invested. I imagined a whole future with her. And letting go of that kind of attachment doesn't come with a clean cut. The pain lingers. Some days it still stings. But one thing I know for sure, I made the right decision. Because marrying Joyce would have meant building my life on a foundation of lies. And no matter how much it hurts now, I'd rather deal with the truth than live a lifetime being deceived. Thank you for listening to my story.